everybody, welcome to Garden Time with Belle. Well, there is one day left in October, so that means I've got to squeeze in an October walkabout, our monthly garden tours, and so we've only got one day left, and it is a cold, crisp October morning here in my Zone 6 Mid-Missouri garden. I think when I woke up this morning, it was about 33, 34 degrees, and I think it's maybe 40-ish right now. So I've got my lamb's wool fleece on, and I'm all bundled up for a beautiful fall morning. So there are some things worth looking at today for sure in the garden. There are actually some things still blooming, even though we've been in the 30s for our nighttime lows, and I'm expecting that to continue for at least the next week. We've had a light frost already this season, but yeah, I can expect that that's going to happen a lot more. So like I like to do most garden tours, is it gives me an opportunity to show you what my garden looks like this time of year as we're almost to November, but also as we move around the space today, I'm going to create my to-do list. I have a lot of things that I absolutely need to get on and get done to get the garden ready for winter. So I'm going to use today as an opportunity not only to show you what's in the garden, but also for me to create my to-do list, because I'll be out here either later today or for sure tomorrow trying to check off the list we create together today, and I'll make sure I bring you along for that process. So before we start the October walkabout, I'm going to invite everybody to please like and subscribe to my channel. If you're new to my channel, I am so glad that you found me. Happen to be a Missouri master gardener here in the middle of the country. I garden in a Zone 6, but I'm just your basic home gardener, and I love to take you along with me on some of my adventures. We happen to live out here in the country on 10 beautiful acres, and so we're able with that kind of space to do a lot of different type of gardening. So I hope you'll subscribe to the channel, and those of you that came back for another video, thank you so much for being here. All right, so we're going to start where we typically do on the walkabout. We're here in the front of the house. This is an west facing side of our house, and so full sun things here. So let's start with that to-do list, right? First thing to do for Belle, I am going to cut these Gertrude Gico climbing roses back. Now, I am not doing the regular important annual pruning, which you don't do on your roses until late winter, early spring. In fact, I think I published a video this past April showing you how I like to prune my roses. So I'll make sure I put a link in the description below to that video. If you're interested, you want to check that out. But before we get terribly cold and snow, I am going to top these off. The obelisk is about right here, and you can see on this Gertrude Gico as well as this one, look at these canes. Oh my gosh. I mean, yeah. So it's really not going to hurt this rose at all before winter to cut it. But the big pruning you don't want to do. You don't want it to try to push on a bunch of new growth going into winter. We get really cold winters here, very cold temps, and a fair amount of snow. So let's go ahead and head down the sidewalk. And of course, we want to stop at my Clematis and actually come in real close. There's still a bloom a couple of days before November. Can you believe that? But you can see, yeah, it's done its thing for the season. What I do want to say about this is a type 3 clematis. So if you grow clematis, you want to know what type, because there's 3 different types. Knowing the type will let you know when you should do the hard cutback. And Jack Manny type 3, you don't cut that back to the ground until early spring. So I'll be taking care of that then. However, I'm always thinking about the future, and one of the things that we really want to do is we want to let this grow up tall. And it can't get very tall because my trellis that it's hanging on is only this tall. And honestly, if we trained it up with some cording or whatever up against the wall, it could fill this whole space. And it's okay if it fills that space, even though you all are seeing a window there. That window doesn't go to anywhere really that we look out of. So it can cover the window, and I'm fine with that. So we'll see. Maybe that'll be something for next year. You can see I haven't pulled these super petunias. This is a silverberry, an annual, but these are going to come out. So put this on the to-do. I'm going to need to pull that silverberry for sure. I've shown you these 3 shrubs, and I've mentioned many times this summer they look horrible. I've done nothing to them because this is going to get a refresh not until next spring. I'm pulling these out and I'm going to replace this whole length of narrow bed with the new kind of dwarf style hydrangeas. Little Quick Fire, I think, is one that I'm thinking about putting maybe 3 of those. And they have dwarf buddleias, butterfly bushes. So I was thinking maybe some purple here on the ends and then some soft pink hydrangeas in the middle. So anyways, that's what I'm going to try to do for next year. All right, so here's the porch area, and not a lot to show you except for the fact that you might see I went really low key this year with my decor. I have been traveling so much. I've been travel the last month a lot, and I leave again in a couple days for another trip. So I just decided, you know, some years you can really deck out things and some years it's not worth it. And this year it's not worth it. So I put a pumpkin in each of my little concrete urns, and you know me, I like to sometimes mix in real natural materials with some silk, and that's what I've done. So really simple, and a couple of little chairs with a couple of little holiday pillows, but otherwise that's it for my fall decor outside. Oh my gosh, take a look at this. This is my oh so easy Italian ice. And the shape is horrible, but look, come in and look at that beautiful, beautiful bloom. I mean, it's still putting on roses, but it is a little wonky, isn't it? Like it's short here, but again, I'm leaving that rose until next spring. All right, let's head down here. My roses, these roses are taking a nap. One thing I will do, actually, let me tell you on the to-do list for roses, what we do, because these are new roses just planted this past summer, they're going to need some extra protection. This faces west, as I mentioned, and we have winds that come in here in the wintertime. And so when you have a really brand new rose, and you live somewhere like we do where it gets really cold, what we'll be doing is I will be piling up shredded leaves all around the base of this plant to just protect that throughout the winter. So to do tomorrow, I need to get these roses nestled in for winter. So here we are on the south side of the house. Not much to see here. This is, of course, a raised bed where I grow extra cut flowers. This year I grew a bunch of zinnias in there. Next year I'm actually going to put all the dahlia tubers that I dug up from the raised bed garden. I think I'm going to put them in there because if you saw my dahlia video recently, I just published it in the last couple of weeks. A couple of those tubers that I dug up had gall. Never had gall ever, but I got my tubers from a new source, and yeah, not happy about it. Of course, I toss the ones with gall, but sometimes if that disease is in the soil, some of the other tubers that looked great that I dug up might have it in them. So I'm going to isolate that group of tubers that I dug up, and I'm going to use that for them just in case there's an issue. So anyhow, yeah, let's just walk down here. Believe it or not, here's my Perovskia or Russian sage. Come in. There's even a pollinator on this late October day. Get in there and see that beautiful bumble. So yeah, the Russian sage is still looking beautiful. Isn't that awesome? So Russian sage, you do not prune it this time of year. It will not be pruned until early spring. Same thing here. My beautiful Miss Molly Buddleia still has a few flowers left. And again, this will just stay just like this. This is a very hardy plant in my zone. I won't come in next year until early summer and cut it way back to the ground. Another Perovskia. What you do see here, I brought you along. These are my peonies, and I did cut these back. Oh, it's been at least a month ago. If you can look at the ground a little bit here, you might see a garden hose. I can't remember. I think I shared it on a short with everybody. I would love to expand this bed next year. That's sort of been my dream because it's such a narrow bed. I really want to expand it. But we've got some other things that we need to prioritize, I think, for 2026. And so I don't know about you, but sometimes you have these big ideas and you just need to pare back your to-do list. And I think we're going to put this idea on hold for a while, but I did want to show you the garden hose that's laid out here because that's a great thing to do. If you're thinking about changing a bed or creating a brand new bed on your property, um, map it out, right? Create the boundaries with your hose and leave it there for, a week or so and come out and take a look and think, is this really what we want? Is this the size or shape? So anyhow, for now, we're going to put this on the back burner because we have two big projects that we're going to be doing in 2026, and I'll tell you more about those later. So here we are on the other side of that retaining wall. Yeah, it's looking pretty sad, isn't it? Because you saw me cut my hostas way, way back to the ground, and that is something you want to do in the fall. And so I've eliminated all the hosta foliage. I've got a Caryopteris here. I'll do nothing to it. It'll be perfectly fine through the winter. And I've got a hardy hibiscus over there, and that just stays put. We don't cut back hardy hibiscus until early spring, early summer. So that's all that we have to do with that. As we make our way over here now, this is the east facing bed. Oh, I was just thinking, here's a to-do. So let me add this to my to-do list for today or tomorrow. I love self-watering containers. You know that. I've shown you my aqua pots many times. If you have self-watering containers, like an aqua pot, this has a 3-gallon vessel in the bottom that holds water. You don't want to leave these out in a place like a zone 6 where I live because you do not want, if there's any water left in there, you don't want that water freezing or it will crack and ruin your pot. So to do for today or tomorrow, I'm going to dump this soil into one of our raised beds, lift and clean this pot out and the vessel that holds the water, and then put it probably in one of our sheds or in the garage for storage for the winter. All right, so whoa, I did bring my sunglasses because I knew I was going to need them, and so I'm going to put them on now. So here we are at that east bed. This is my trouble bed. Those of you that follow my channel know this bed stays exceedingly wet. So instead of fighting against its wetness, I tried to find and research about plants that can handle some wet feet. Certain hydrangeas do okay in heavy clay soil with some wet feet. Siberian iris. Yeah. So anyways, I have pulled out a lot of the annuals, as you can see, but here is a to-do. I need to get this done today or tomorrow. You see all these weeds? In the fall, you really, really want to get disciplined. If you see weeds in your beds, pull them now because you don't want them to have a chance to grow and grow and develop big root systems. So to do, weed all of my perennial beds for sure in the next day or two to get them ready for winter. And last but not least, let's take a look. This is one of my hardy hibiscus, and you can see it's looking pretty rough. It had a lot of leaf drop, as it should at this time of year, but also I think, first time ever, I think some of the deer have been getting really close to our garden, and I think they may have nibbled on this a little bit. And that's really upsetting to me because even though we live out here on the 10 acres that we have, the deer, for all these years we've lived here, do not come up close to the house typically and eat a bunch of our stuff. But they were nibbling on this. And remember my beautiful sweet potato vine that I planted over on that side, but I let fill up this whole wall and come over here. I think I was out of town, and when I came back, or maybe while I was gone, my husband sent me a picture, and all the sweet potato vine had been eaten, all of it. Just little stubs and nubs were left. Oh gosh. So I'm gonna have to worry about deer, I think, next year. Oh. Another Miss Molly Buddleia. Still a few blooms right here. You can see why I like it. Look at that color. Isn't that just gorgeous? Kind of a raspberry pink. Anyhow, this will be fine. Tough plant. I will do nothing. It doesn't get a really hard cutback until late spring, early summer. And then right up here, let's take a look at the north side of the house. We've got, of course, my favorite hydrangeas, Little Lime Punch. They're looking like they're supposed to. We leave them alone. We leave these. Some people like to remove the blooms, but I don't. I think they'll add winter interest if it snows. Oh, it just is really pretty on there. Our spiral boxwood is doing just fine. This is Terrenium. This is an annual. So let me put this on my to-do. Pull out the Terrenia. What I'm not going to pull out is some lamium that sort of has gotten gobbled up. Lamium is back here. Lamium is a perennial. So I'm hoping the lamium will do better next year filling this spot in. And here we go. Last bed. Let's take a look at this one. Oh, good. I can take my glasses off. So yeah. So we've got Mr. Mikawa Yatsubusa, our dwarf Japanese maple. I did some research because this is known for beautiful fall color. I don't see a lot of fall color here. It's supposed to get really red and orange and gorgeous, but you know what? I read a little bit more about it, and if it doesn't get a lot of sunshine, it's less brilliant in the fall, and oh, that makes me really sad. I didn't really realize it needed more sun than it's getting to get its fall color. So it is growing slowly but surely. This is all new growth. You can see some tips here. So anyhow, yeah, that's kind of a disappointment. Last year it did put on some fall color, so go figure. I don't know. But anyhow, you probably see a big difference here. I removed all the coleus. The coleus that I propagated myself and had little plants that I planted back here in this back row. I kid you not, the coleus was up to here. They were massive. So I've stripped the coleus out. Let's add this to the to-do though. There are things I need to do today or tomorrow in this bed, and that is just like cutting back hosta is a good idea before winter. Brunnera, all of this needs to be cut back now. So I'm going to come out here and cut this back. And then I had a bunch of beautiful Supertunia petunias in here. They've already been pulled. I left the Superbina because it was flowering up to about a week ago. And then what is this? Lime, coral lime. Oh, I always forget. Anyways, these are annuals. So to do today or tomorrow, pull out all the annuals. Well, I think I'll take you guys inside the greenhouse. Before I do that, you saw me pot up these 2 pots for fall, and I used a mixture of perennials and annuals. But I need to put this on the to-do list for today or tomorrow, and that is I need to dig these croton. This is what this plant here is called, a croton. These are sort of tropical. So with our forecast in the mid to low 30s for the rest of the week, they're not going to last if I leave them out here. So I will dig these out, pot them up, and they can live in the greenhouse through the winter, as well as this sedum. So do you see this plant right here? This is a beautiful perennial. And so I'm going to dig the sedum out and pop them somewhere in the landscape. And I'm not sure, I haven't decided where I'm going to put them yet, but I want them to be in one of our perennial beds. So anyhow, so that's on the to-do list as well. So yeah, so let me just have you come and peek inside the greenhouse. Woo-wee, it feels good in here. Oh boy, nice and toasty. In fact, let me look at let's see how warm it is in here. Oh my gosh, my internal thermometer says it's 86 degrees in here. Big difference. So anyhow, just wanted to see what's going on in here, and basically this is just going to start getting filled up with everything that I'm trying to overwinter. For instance, the fern that was out on our back deck. Yeah, This will be fine in here. I potted up some of the lavender that I had out there. And the reason why I potted up my lavender is because we're going to be retrofitting some of the garden beds that I'll show you in just a minute. I've got my herb pot here. I transferred some chives into here the other day because, again, the chives are in a raised bed out there. I'll show you in a minute. And they're not going to, we're going to retrofit those raised beds, so they need to overwinter here. My geraniums, also my ivy. I had these in the big tall planter boxes on either side of our garage door. And so there were two different plants, so I potted up in here. So hopefully I'll overwinter the ivy. So last stop on the October walkabout is heading into our raised bed garden. So let's go in here and I'll show you a few things that are still going strong and give you an update on what we're planning. Big changes for 2026. I've talked about this a little bit before, so let me tell you about the big changes, and then I'll be able to sort of explain what I'm doing in the meantime. So these 3 4x8 raised beds are going to be taken out, and we are going to install our birdies raised beds. Do you see these behind me? The big tall ones. So we are going to be ordering 4 of these, but we're getting the 15 inchers. So they'll come up about this tall. I think this is about 12 inches. So anyhow, but we're not going to do that until probably March. And my husband retrofitted those, and oh my gosh, thank goodness he has the talent and the patience of a saint, because it's no easy task to try to remove all the wood and then level these new ones, because this slopes, as you know. But anyhow, so that is our big plan for 2026 for this garden. So we'll have 4x8, 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 and these 2 skinny ones behind me, do you see those? Those are going to be pulled out as well, and we're going to put a 4x8 there as well and try to recreate that climbing archway, because I love to grow my cucumbers and green beans and sugar snap peas in that space. So that's what we are doing for next year. My stacker, my green stalk vertical garden was pretty much devoted to strawberries. Need to put this on the to-do list in the next couple of days. I need to get my husband's help because this is heavy. I need to separate these out, take some of the tiers off, and I'm going to try to store my strawberries, which are supposed to come back every year. I'm going to try to store this either in our garage or in, they'll go dormant, or in one of our outdoor sheds. I'm not storing these in the greenhouse because the greenhouse gets too hot. You know, even in winter, the greenhouse really heats up. You know, we were just in there, it was like 86 degrees. You want them to go to dormant. If it gets too hot, the strawberries will try to start coming out of dormancy like in the middle of January, and you don't want that. So the other to-do I need to do is I've got thyme, some beautiful, come in close, this is really pretty sage. I don't know if y'all have ever grown. This is what's considered a tricolor sage. Isn't that pretty? Anyways, you know, in my greenhouse, I have a nice little raised bed with herbs. These are perennial herbs. They come back year after year. I need to get them out of here. And in the greenhouse, again, here's some parsley. It's not a perennial. It probably won't overwinter very well. So anyhow, but those 2, I need to get that taken care of. Recently shared with you my garlic planting video. 44 cloves of garlic in here. This whole bed is going to be devoted to garlic for next year. We will not be harvesting our garlic until next June. So you plant it in October where I live and you don't harvest it until the next June, but it is so worth it. Easiest thing to grow. Can't recommend it enough. This bed, all that's left is our beautiful 5-color rainbow Swiss chard. That is just stellar. And actually, it can handle some cold, so I'm just leaving it. I ripped out all of the ageratum that I grew, a cut flower. So yeah, so I'm just going to leave this here, and then when it gets really taken by a freeze, then I will take it out. And then this very last box, it has some lettuce that I'm just now noticing. When people say going to seed, if you bring the camera in real close, I want to show you. So if you don't cut on your lettuce often enough, eventually it will send up seed heads. Do you see that? So when it's going to seed, the plant is saying, I am done. I'm trying to reproduce my life cycle, so I'm going to try to go to seed. So anyhow, I really should come in and cut this back, and I can probably get a little bit more lettuce for us out of this before a hard freeze. The only other thing you're seeing here in the bed are my carrots. And I don't know how they're going to do, but they're growing. So, you know, they're supposed to, I don't want to break that one. They're supposed to handle cold weather. So, I don't know if they'll produce anything, but I tried. So the final stop on our October walkabout is this bed right here, which of course, as you can see, has some beautiful parsley. And again, I'm going to just leave this parsley in here and see how it handles the upcoming cold. And it's Italian flat leaf parsley, which is delicious. So I'll be cutting on it and bringing some of it inside for cooking. But what I do want you to notice is the soil level. It's down, isn't it? Can you see that? So we expected that to happen. With these beautiful tall Birdie's raised beds, we use the Kugel method where you fill about half of it in the bottom with logs and sticks and twigs and, you know, all that kind of stuff from your garden. And then you add in your beautiful raised bed mix, which we did. But you can expect it's going to settle because all of this beautiful, healthy raised bed mix does work its way down through the logs and the twigs and things. And so we knew that was going to happen, really common. So if that happens to you, don't be concerned, expect it and be ready to top off your raised beds with fresh soil. Typically people will do that in the spring. But what I do need to put on the to-do list is to get with my husband and do our annual leaf shredding project. And if you pan out there, you can see under our sycamore trees, there's already quite a lot of leaves that we have on the property. So I will make sure I bring you all along with us to show you how we like to do that. But shredding leaves down to little fine bits is really amazing for your plants and for your soil health. It will decompose much quicker if it's shredded up. And so we'll shred those leaves, and then all of the big Birdie's raised beds, the ones that stay for next year, except for the garlic bed, I will cover it with at least a couple inches of that beautiful leaf litter, as they say, or leaf mold. And then we'll come in here in the spring and add nice high quality raised bed mix on top of that, and just work that all into the soil. And it really will add that organic matter and help the fertility of the soil, which of course, you know, will help our plants. Well, that's going to do it for the October walkabout. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. We did a nice walkabout around the property. I got to show you things that are still in bloom. We even got to see some pollinators on the Russian sage. So even though we're a day or so away from November, there's still lots of pretty things going on in the garden, but there's also plenty of things for me to do, just like I'm sure you all are doing in your garden to get it ready for winter. So until next time, I wish everybody out there happy gardening.